Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for the virtual town hall meeting for students, faculty, and staff. I'm Keith Miles, Director of the Office of Communications, and I'll serve as your moderator for this afternoon. Family President Dr. Larry Robinson, along with key members of the university's senior leadership team, will answer important questions related to the navigation of the spring semester. Thank you for the questions that you sent in advance, and we will try to answer as many of them as time will allow during this town hall. Many of them will be answered in the remarks from our esteemed panelists. So to submit a live question on Zoom, click on the Q&A icon on your screen. And if we don't get around to answering your question, just please send them to townhall@famu.edu and we will get you a response. This afternoon's forum will be recorded, posted, and archived at famu.edu/virtual town hall for your review on demand. Thank you again for joining us today. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the president of Florida A&M University, Dr. Larry Robinson.
Thank you, Keith, and hello, everyone. Welcome to this first town hall meeting we're having for the year 2021. We're glad to see the year 2020 in our rearview mirror. So I want to welcome you all back to the campus or back to Tallahassee. For those of you who are coming back from out of town, welcome to the spring semester. We have an opportunity to share with you information regarding how we will operate this semester. And by the way, Happy New Year to all of you. And congratulations to you, Keith Miles. I heard that you were recently appointed Director of Communications at FAMU by someone. So congratulations on that. Let me begin by reiterating that the well-being of the FAMU community is our highest consideration. And our team has worked tirelessly and planned thoughtfully to build a strategy that allows us to work and learn in the midst of a formidable and relentless menace, the COVID-19 pandemic. But we have met this challenge with equal resolve as evidenced by your positive actions during the past 10 months. I'm proud of how many of you have taken seriously this pandemic and have implemented the wearing of masks, washing hands, and sanitizing your spaces, as well as practicing social distancing. We will continue. In fact, we must continue following these protocols as we move forward in anticipation of the newly developed vaccines becoming available. And when they do become available to you and your age group or category, I strongly encourage you to take it at the first possibility. The results of your positive actions have been relatively low numbers of positive cases of COVID-19 at Florida A&M University. You have shown that you are willing to do your part, and we appreciate all of your efforts. Remember that your efforts not only protect you, but also keeps us all safe. We have a shared responsibility to protect the family. Recently, I penned an end of the year statement in which I attempted to convey a message of humility and gratitude. Here's a brief excerpt. Read, as we prepare to celebrate the coming of a new year, let us first give thanks to the fact that we made it through 2020 and give prayers for those not so fortunate. The fact that we are privileged to witness yet another day illuminated by Florida A&M University's eternal flame is a testament to the divine grace bestowed upon us from on high. We are the keepers of the flame and guardians of our future. Together, we will continue the virtuous work of this institution, changing lives, demystifying the unknown, and healing the divisions and disparities that work contrary to the principles for which we stand. This past year helped us appreciate so much we often take for granted or did not know. We witnessed the courage of healthcare workers as they fearlessly took on an invisible and vicious plague that shook us to our core. FAMU faculty, staff, and students stepped in to serve in this epic battle by volunteering their time and expertise in service to others. They worked as contact tracers, established new research initiatives, and donated ventilators and personal protective equipment to help confront the scourge. Our team developed an elaborate framework that allowed the university to operate in this new normal while protecting the safety and well-being of the family, end quote. During this town hall, you will learn more about the work that we're doing to protect the family and continue the legacy of excellence with caring at Florida A&M University. For example, at the community-based COVID-19 test site at Bragg Memorial Stadium, approximately 190,000 tests have been administered since April the 25th of last year. Currently, the site averages over 2,000 tests per day. This is truly remarkable when you consider that at one time in its early inception, it was thought that only 2,500 total tests would be administered at this site. We will shortly surpass over 200,000 tests administered at the Bragg Memorial Stadium. To complement this site, I'm happy to announce that we will begin rapid COVID-19 testing of current students and employees next week. This testing would include the use of nearly 7,000 rapid antigen tests supplied last fall by the White House Initiative on HBCUs. Testing will be conducted at 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday at the Famu Clubhouse on South Adams Street. This initiative represents our desire to keep our students, faculty, and staff healthy during this unrelenting pandemic. I want to thank again our faculty, students, and staff for protecting the integrity of our academic programs and contributing to our student success, for making a remarkable transformation in the modes of delivery of instruction and services during this time frame. It was necessary to become more proficient in non-traditional teaching modalities as a new nomenclature became commonplace: virtual, remote, hybrid, high flex, and screen sharing. During this transformation, we came face to face with the reality that the bridge across the digital divide is far from complete. However, thanks to the generosity of alumni, friends, and supporters, hundreds of laptops, portable cameras, and hotspot devices were procured, and extensive training was provided to help us narrow the gap. Tomorrow is the birthday of the Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. In light of the turmoil happening in our country, there's perhaps no better time than now to be reminded that we cannot afford to take our liberties for granted. We must work hard to sustain the excellence we have generated throughout our history. We must continue Dr. King's legacy of peacefully standing up, letting our voices be heard, and making a positive difference, all while continuing the pursuit of delivering a high quality educational experience for our students. Please join us tomorrow at 10:10 a.m. for the virtual Martin Luther King Jr. convocation, where alumnus Florida Senator Bobby Powell Jr. will be the keynote speaker. Now let me introduce to you Ms. Rika Calhoun, who leads our Continuity of Operations Task Force, which developed our COVID-19 operational plan. Ms. Calhoun is also our Chief Compliance and Ethics Officer at the university, who will provide us with an update on the restart for the spring semester. Ms. Calhoun.
Good afternoon, everyone. We developed our reopening plan to help us operate and mitigate the risk of COVID-19 transmission on our campus locations as much as possible. We successfully navigated the fall semester, and we are prepped and ready for spring 2021. The university has scaled up our focused approach, so it is not business as usual. Our scaled approach includes the continued preparation of our members, of our campus communities and our facilities, and we're constantly keeping safety as our top priority. So we have a few key areas we'd like to highlight. First, to facilities. We prepared facilities and spaces by increased cleaning protocols and adjusting capacity based on social distancing guidelines. We've worked closely with university units to complete risk assessments to determine additional mitigation measures to protect faculty, staff, and our students. We have installed UV light filtration systems in buildings across the university, and that includes DRS and the college. These units work with our air supply system to clean the air and reduce the risk of virus transmission. We've also made significant enhancements to classrooms to facilitate instruction and safety. The next area is online training. We talk about preparing people and spaces, right? So faculty, staff, and students returning to our campuses must complete COVID-19 online training prior to returning, if you have not already done so. Students will find their training course on Canvas. Employees will complete training hosted by JJ Keller and administered by the Office of Organizational Development and Training. Please contact me if you still need to complete your training, and I'll put my email in the chat just in case. Next up is screening. Remember that we cannot successfully navigate this pandemic without the vigilance and commitment of each of us to protect the family. So members of the university community must continue to use the health screening tools in the Famu mobile app each day before reporting to class or work. So we are in the process of also obtaining temperature kiosks that will be stationed in at least one entrance of most university buildings to provide you with even more opportunities to screen yourself and ensure your safety and those around you. Our next item is return kits. Members of our university community who did not receive kits in the fall semester will receive return kits with face coverings and hand sanitizer. Faculty will receive face shields in their kits as well. Remember that face coverings and hand sanitizer refill stations are situated throughout our campuses and our locations. One of the biggest expansions of our restart involves testing. Let me share an infographic you have seen already. Okay. As a result of our continued assessment to respond to the pandemic, the university's COVID-19 testing framework has been expanded for the spring semester. Remember that you are critical to the successful execution of our plan. So it's so important that we remember that this is a shared responsibility. And as you know, we have enhanced our testing strategy to focus on 3 main points: pre-return testing, initial testing, then bi-weekly testing thereafter. Returning members of the university community are expected to obtain a test for COVID-19 within 5 days of their return to campus. So that's step 1. Undergraduate students must then obtain initial testing this week. Graduate students, faculty, and staff will then test next week, the week of January 18th. And all members of the university community are expected to get a COVID-19 test on a bi-weekly schedule. So the infographic I'm sharing was sent out on FAMU Info, and it will help you remember the steps. The Bragg Stadium site is currently available and fully operational, serving thousands of individuals per day, in addition to our FAMU site, which will soon come online, as you heard Dr. Robinson mention. Faculty, staff, and students have 2 options to check in for testing. One is the FAMU mobile app, which is preferred. You would check in on the FAMU mobile app, which is similar to the current screening. For the Bragg Stadium site, you will have 2 QR codes now. One you will have gotten from the curative.com website, and one you will have obtained from FAMU mobile app. You'll bring both to the site. The other method is using your Rattler ID. So stakeholders, faculty, staff, and students will swipe their ID cards on scanners at the sites. So make sure you always bring your Rattler ID to the testing sites just in case. So we have established screening, testing, quarantine, and isolation procedures for the university, as well as identifying appropriate housing spaces for residential students who need to isolate and quarantine, along with appropriate support. Our reopening plan built in the flexibility to adjust operations based on a weekly assessment of the environment at our main campus and our locations, as well as our broader communities. Based on that continual assessment, we will make adjustments as the semester continues. So I'll now defer to Tanya Tatum, our Director of Student Health Services and Incident Commander, to provide health guidance, updates, and reminders. Ms. Tatum?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rika. We have really worked very hard to try to expand the availability of the testing and everything so that we can try to keep our community as safe as possible. The thing that makes COVID-19 so difficult to manage is that a lot of individuals may be positive and may be infected with COVID-19 and yet do not know because they aren't having any symptoms. So that's one of the reasons why we put in a testing protocol, and we're requesting individuals to get tested twice, once every other week. It's really important, and it's going to take that kind of diligence to make sure that we are identifying individuals that may be positive as soon as possible. So the testing's been expanded. We will let you know, anticipate that the secondary site will come open next week. Look for more information about that. That site, that location will strictly be for FAMU employees and students. So we will not be doing community testing at the other location. But we expect that both of them will be doing a lot of great work. That secondary testing site will also be where we are going to be able to administer the PCR test. And that is something that will be processed in the new COVID laboratory that we're working on, and anticipate that that will be opening early in February. So that is something else that's coming online. We're very fortunate that we have received and been recipients of some donations through Thermo Fisher Scientific and the Gates Foundation to help us keep our community safe as possible. And so that's what's supporting that new COVID testing lab. And we're also fortunate to have some really good partners that are working with us on that. That includes Capital Regional Medical Center and also the McConnell Group. So they are all helping us to pull this online, and so we'll be able to offer additional testing resources to the FAMU community. I think also, I know there have been a lot of questions about the vaccine. We will be a vaccine site initially for the FAMU community, employees and students, but we're anticipating that we'll be able to roll that out next week. We're doing the last few details about that. Now, there are strict priorities as to who and what parts of our community are being tested at what time. According to the executive order from the governor, healthcare personnel that are working with and around individuals that have COVID, first priority, and then individuals 65 and older. So we will start with healthcare workers and also our students and faculty that are actually in clinical settings. And then we will roll out the availability of the vaccine for individuals 65 and over. So look for more information. We'll be sending an email out trying to gauge interest. And so we'll have an idea of the numbers of individuals that will need to be tested. At some point, we will expand those groups as we're allowed to by the state. The whole goal is to get everybody to have the vaccine that would like it. But right now we're limited to the priorities that have been established. And so we will just keep everyone posted as we hear more about that. We did receive some questions, and I wanted to be able to respond to those. Questions about the importance of pre-return testing. That I can't stress enough. What we don't want is for you to come to campus your first day back, go test and think that you're going to test and then just go to your class or whatever, and then find out that you have a positive test. It's the one nice thing about the rapid tests is that you get those results within 15 minutes to typically no more than 45 minutes. So we want you to test prior to the day of your first day on campus. We've asked that everybody test on a bi-weekly basis. So every other week, you should be testing. We have established some guidelines as to when individuals should be tested. We have 1 week for students, for our undergraduate students. The following week will be our graduate students and faculty. And please try to stick to those timeframes because it's really important because we have capacity, but it's there are a lot of people that are all trying to get tested. So try to stick to that week and really make sure you're doing a good job of making sure you're testing every 2 weeks. And I think that's about it. Does that answer the questions, Rika?
It does.
Okay, thank you all very much.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Tatum, Ms. Calhoun, and Dr. Robinson. As we continue, Provost Dr. Maurice Eddington, Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. William Hudson Jr., Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Alan Robertson, Assistant Vice President for Human Resources, Joyce Ingram, Vice President for University Advancement and Dean of the School of Business and Industry, Dr. Shante Friday Stroud, and Vice President and Director of Athletics, Courtney Gaucher, respectively, will share their expertise and answer some of the questions you submitted. We will begin with Provost Eddington.
Thank you, Keith. And good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin by providing a few updates and reminders about the spring semester, and then I will address some of the questions that were submitted in advance. As a reminder, beginning next week, we will begin our transition to in-person instruction for the select number of courses that have been designated. That would include high flex courses and some traditional face-to-face courses. Students should continue to engage with your instructors in your courses regarding the logistics for those students who will be on campus. With respect to spring commencement, we have not yet made a decision as to whether or not we will have an in-person ceremony. We don't expect to make that determination anytime before around March. So we'll keep the community updated as we move forward. And also as a reminder, spring break this semester has been canceled. And consequently, the semester will end 1 week early on April 23rd. Some of the questions that came in, I'll try to answer some of these in a general way so that they're more widely applicable. There was a question about whether or not we will extend the current modes of instruction this semester, high flex and remote, into the summer term. And while we have not finalized the specific plans for how we will offer instruction in the summer, it is very likely that the approach that we'll take for the summer is similar to how we approach the current semester. But again, we have not made any specific decisions yet about the summer term. Another question had to do with the current semester, if it's possible to have all virtual courses. Well, we do have a variety of course instructional modes available, and students have options of selecting the different types. But as I said, we do have some in-person instruction that's going to begin next week. There were some questions around the high flex courses. And just for those that don't know, that's a course that provides students with the option of attending the class in person or taking the class remotely. And the instructor teaches to both types of students simultaneously. So students can choose to learn remotely. Questions centered around what happens if students choose not to show up for the face-to-face and all of the students in the section are taking the class remotely. That's totally fine. That's the options that we wanted to provide to students. But we do expect the course to be taught as a high flex course, primarily because we have to designate the types of courses that we offer at the institution, and as part of the data tracking that the institution and the state uses. And we cannot designate a course as high flex and then on the fly switch the instructional mode. And so we have to be consistent with how we offer instruction in alignment with the designations. There's questions around students who may not have access to technology and what can the institution do to accommodate them. Going back to last March, we have made laptops and other computing equipment available to our students to facilitate their remote learning. And we are continuing to do that. Students can contact the library or work through their academic deans if they are still in need of technology assistance. And if students have needs that cannot be met via that approach, they should consult with their academic advisors and their academic deans to see what other type of assistance and support they may need. There was also a question about this was from a faculty member about whether or not we were going to be able to use Spotter this semester. Spotter is a technology tool that allows us to monitor classroom attendance when the students enter in the physical classroom space. And so we suspended the use of Spotter for the current academic year. And so it won't be available this spring, but we will certainly look to reactivate it next academic year. We did get a question related to the law school from a law school student, I believe, but it's my understanding that that was addressed last evening during the College of Law, their town hall that they had. And so, Mr. Moderator, I'll turn it back over to you. Oh, you're muted.
Yep. All right, thank you, Dr. Eddington. And we have received many questions on housing and other student-related activities. Dr. William Hudson Jr., Vice President for Student Affairs, and members of his team join us to share their thoughts. Dr. Hudson.
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, everyone. I echo the comments by President Robinson and Provost Eddington and the FAMU team that have presented prior to me. Your health and safety is of the utmost importance. I would like to personally welcome students, faculty, and staff back for the spring 2021 term. It is my hope and prayer that everyone enjoy a safe, successful, and healthy year. I have several questions that I will provide information related to student services. The FAMU community is extremely concerned as we face unprecedented times in our nation's history. The administration has learned of potential for armed protests in many of our nation's capitals on Sunday, January 17, 2021. These gatherings could serve as super spreader events that could put members of the FAMU community in physical danger. Please be cautious of your surroundings. The curfew for the campus has been lifted. However, we encourage students to not attend or engage in activities such as parties that could expose them to COVID-19. As stated previously, there has been an increase in cases nationally. The university will continue to monitor campus exposure and reserves the right to re-engage the university curfew. Students are also reminded that the university's student code of conduct applies to their behavior on and off campus. We expect students to comply with all state and federal laws, rules, local ordinances, or orders. Students should not host or attend large gatherings. If the university receives a report that a student or student organization engaged in concerning or inappropriate behavior, the appropriate disciplinary action will be taken. We encourage our students to protect the family. I'll say that once again, protect the family. Consider the risk of exposure and potential risk to your loved ones and the campus community. On a bit of brighter news, the Office of Student Activities is open for the spring 2021 semester and has a robust array of programming that includes 13 approved fraternity and sorority intakes, monthly diversity, equity, and inclusion seminars, as well as bi-weekly virtual group activities. The Student Government Association has been meeting virtually and have planned a town hall for January 28, 2021 for students to include departments campus-wide. SGA elections will be held on February 23rd and 25th, 2021, and the SGA 2021-2022 budget calendar will be disseminated on iStrike. Finally, a spring preview will occur on March 28th, 2021. Now, the Office of Counseling Services has resumed virtual individual counseling sessions for students with the WellTrack Interactive Self-Help Therapy, the suite of online tools and courses to help students after hours. Group sessions and workshops will start the week of January 25th. For housing, the housing portal for 2021-2022 will open on January 25th at 9 a.m. The following items for 2021 and 2022 academic year for residence halls have been included. The FAMU Towers North will be for the freshman residence hall. That will be the home of the LLCs. FAMU Towers South is a freshman residence hall. Sampson and Young halls are also freshman residence hall. The upper class residence hall will be Pokinghorn Village. For Palmetto South and Palmetto Phase 3, those residence halls will be for all classifications of students. Please be reminded, room spaces are available on a first come, first served basis. Instructions for connecting the Wi-Fi are listed on the housing webpage under services, then click on wireless network information. An email will be sent to all residents to remind them of how to access Wi-Fi and the link that connects to the ITS instructions page. Staff from the Division of Student Affairs and other student service areas are currently online and answering questions as they are posed in the chat room. Please provide your questions or any further questions or reach out to their offices directly. Thank you. Keith, I turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hudson. And we know you have your team standing by to answer any questions that may come in. Well, as the spring semester begins, there are a number of work-related questions as we continue telecommuting and return to campus. Associate Vice President for Human Relations, Joyce Ingram, is here to provide an update. Ms. Ingram.
Good afternoon, everyone. The telecommuting policy and agreements were in development as management tools prior to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, and they were finalized and became effective in March of last year and were made available to our supervisors to assist them in the effective and efficient management of work in their respective operations and to help them navigate through the onset of the pandemic, supporting the effective transition of the university to remote instruction and work during the spring and summer of last year, the fall academic reopening, which occurred in August and September of last year, and then the return to campus strategies for this 2021 spring semester. There have been questions around employees' rights to telecommute. And it is important for our employees to understand that telecommuting is an employee privilege. An employee does not have a right to telecommute, and a telecommuting agreement does not change the nature of the employment relationship, all the terms and conditions of employment. Decisions to approve these agreements are driven by operational needs and work conducive to being performed remotely. Further, it is the supervisor's responsibility to ensure the telecommuting arrangements do not adversely impact the university's ability to deliver high-quality services to our customers and our university community. As such, telecommuting arrangements may be rescinded at any time by the supervisor with notice to and approval of the divisional vice president, and of course, notification to the affected employee. Telecommuting agreements developed and approved during the spring period were updated this past August and remained effective through December 2020, and thereafter were extended through January 31, 2021. So any change in effective dates or further extensions of these agreements will be authorized and communicated to our employees by our university leadership. So there are specific employee expectations. So employees who telecommute are subject to the same university regulations, policies, or procedures as other university employees in their classification. Employees approved to work remotely are expected to remain productive, that is, perform all of their duties and responsibilities and maintain their normal work hours or approved alternate work schedule. Employees are also expected to stay engaged and connected to their supervisors via one-on-one sessions, staff and/or organizational meetings as determined by their supervisor. We are past year 2 in our Service Excellence Initiative, and employees have been trained on customer service etiquette and expectations regarding service delivery. As such, each employee, whether telecommuting or working on campus, is expected to ensure outstanding customer experiences, and that is to perform all duties and responsibilities through service excellence, ensuring those outstanding customer experiences as it relates to being accessible, following phone and email etiquette, being responsive to requests and inquiries, and to follow through on all assignments and projects. Employees are also expected to ensure security and maintain confidentiality of work by making sure they are connecting securely and following all university policies related to access, data security, and data confidentiality. Employees are expected to follow current time and attendance guidelines. So the primary difference, again, between working remotely through telecommuting and working on site is location. As such, if an employee is unable to work due to a family care need, he or she must use one of the following types of leave to account for time away from work at home with supervisory approval. So that will be accrued leave, sick, and then annual leave after exhaustion of sick leave, and then leave without pay. If employees want to take annual leave during this period, they must follow the normal leave request process. So all employees are still required to enter their time and submit leave reports and timesheets by the appropriate deadlines. So we are encouraging all of our staff employees to read and become familiar with the telecommuting policy and the agreement, which is located on the HR website. And if you have any questions, you may contact me, Joyce Ingram, in the Office of Human Resources, or Sandy Smith Anderson, our Director of Human Resources. As it relates to requests for reasonable accommodations to assist individuals in returning to work or while at work, those requests should be directed to the Office of Equal Opportunity Programs. Approval of accommodations have occurred and are being assessed and evaluated on a case-by-case basis. So if you have any questions, you may contact Ms. Carrie Gavin, Director, Equal Opportunity Programs in the Office of Equal Opportunity Programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram. Campus safety is of the utmost importance, especially during these times. Police Chief Terrence Calloway is here to inform the FAMU community on safety protocols. Chief Calloway.
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, Rattlers. As Dr. Hudson mentioned, there is a protest that's occurring on our nation capitals, but we've learned that a few people have chosen to subvert the rule of the law and government by organizing potential armed protests at our nation capital on Sunday, January 17th, 2021. The protesters are using social media to spread the word of the Tree of Liberty rally. The FBI, FDLE, and the Tallahassee Police Department are monitoring these platforms as I can see right now. For safety reasons, we ask our faculty, staff, and students to refrain from visiting or traveling near the Capitol on January 17th. In the event that the protest extends to our campus, students will be notified via FAMU info, a text message through Blackboard Connect, and we're asking that students remain in their rooms with doors closed and locked. The FAMU Police Department has taken some precautionary measurements. We've added additional officers, we've activated our mutual aid agreements, and we've had collaboration with the Tallahassee Police Department, the Leon County Sheriff's Department, the FBI, the National Guard, FDLE, Capitol Police, and various other Big Ben law enforcement agencies. We're asking you all to be safe as we continue to try to monitor what's taking place in our nation capital. As far as our police department, we've hired 4 additional police officers to make sure that we can keep our FAMU families safe. We've added almost 1,000 cameras. As of today, we have 1,163 cameras. We've added door access to most or all of our buildings. We have license plate readers to make sure that we can monitor who's coming on and off our campus. And the beauty of this is our collaborative effort with our safety personnel. We're making sure that we can keep our students safe. So we continue to monitor what's taking place. We have some information, some intel that has come about, but there's no validity to any of this as we speak right now. So we continue to update you and make sure that we can keep our community safe. Thank you all for your cooperation and stay safe.
All right, thank you, Chief Calloway. The coronavirus pandemic has had an impact on finances affecting the entire university. Dr. Alan Robertson, Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, will share his thoughts on navigating this semester, where we are with CARES Act funding and on-campus dining options. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Keith. The Florida A&M University has experienced revenue losses in excess of $20 million this year. This is a result of the coronavirus and the need to shift to remote instruction in the middle of the spring and summer semester last year, as well as shifting to hybrid instruction this academic year. The projected revenue losses are primarily associated with enrollment, housing, dining, events, parking, childcare, student centers, as well as continuing education. The pandemic also increased our expenses related to online remote instruction with the purchase of technology for work, teaching, and learning. Other new expenses were also added to clean our buildings and to purchase PP&E for faculty, staff, and students. Finally, direct COVID-related expenses included the Bragg Stadium testing site the president mentioned earlier, as well as a COVID-19 testing site that is being constructed for students and staff and faculty. And so COVID-19 has had a dramatic impact on us, and we are continuing to monitor the revenue losses as well as the additional expenses. We anticipate all of the CARES Act dollars that we receive this year will be used by mid-March. And those dollars will only offset about half of our revenue loss. The dining hub, which I have a picture of, if I can bring that up. So our dining hub, this is a rendering of what it's going to look like, and we're putting in additional outdoor seating. But I'll show you where we are currently with it. If I can get my screen to cooperate. There we go. So this is what it looks like currently. These are recent pictures. So we're getting there. We anticipate finishing the building by the end of this month. And it's going to take about 2 to 3 weeks to get in and to train staff and to debug the operations before we can open. So that is our dining hub. And I'm going to cover a couple of questions that we got in. One is anything going to be done about the poor Wi-Fi connection in the village? Students are not able to hear their Zoom classes because of slow Wi-Fi. And so I consulted with our CIO, Ron Henry, and he is testing the site now. We just don't know whether it's an isolated incident or whether that is something that is throughout the village. We will upgrade the technology there and to 40G from 10G currently. And so that should address any other problems that we're having there. But if you would like, I suggest you contact Mrs. Cheyenne Lamb of Housing, who can offer some additional support and put you in contact with our IT department to assist with your issues. And then finally, we got a question about food. Are students able to take food from the cafeteria to their rooms? And are boxes to go available? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. We've been providing that service for almost a year now, allowing to-go boxes to go back to the room. And Rebecca Brown is on the line, and she is working on a curbside ordering service. So to see if we can again, be able to provide more service to our students, faculty, and staff, where you can literally drive up in your car and have your meal brought out to you. She told me today, in fact, that METS is also looking at hiring students to deliver meals across campus. And so those are just a few of the ways that we're trying to improve our service. Thank you, Keith.
All right, thank you, Dr. Robertson. This is going to be a banner year for fundraising, even during this pandemic, and some of the numbers that Dr. Robertson shared with you. Vice President of the Family Foundation and the Dean of the School of Business and Industry, Dr. Shante Friday-Stroud joins us to share how those efforts will continue supporting students and why those gifts and resources are needed now more than ever.
All right, thank you, Keith. And yes, I want to thank everyone who has donated so far to the university, as well as those that have donated specifically to FAMU Cares. Our FAMU Cares, which are donations totally separate from the Federal CARES Act funds that the university receives, but our FAMU Cares donations go specifically to provide computers, laptops to support our students. So as the provost mentioned previously, if you have a need for laptops, in addition to those loaners that can be provided through the libraries, you must go through your dean. So make sure to get contact to either your department chairs, directors, but specifically through to your dean so that you can be submitted a request to receive a laptop should you be in need. You must be a registered student to take advantage of this, and the deans will vet the students before submitting those. We will begin reopening our FAMU Cares portal next week and to be able to provide support for our students. But again, for faculty and staff, we want to thank you, and anyone in our FAMU lead that happens to be listening, we want to thank you for your previous contributions to FAMU Cares, but we're in a new year, 2020, and so you can go ahead and start your 2021, excuse me, we're in a new year, 2021, and you can go ahead and start your 2021 donations to FAMU Cares. I will also say that you can give those donations to the other schools, colleges, and units on campus, including athletics, because students all across the campus are in need of resources to help them navigate this time and make it through. So again, we want to thank you for all that you've done so far, but ask you to continue to support FAMU Cares and FAMU in general with your philanthropic donations. So Keith, back to you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Friday-Stroud. Well, you know, we're all hoping that we'll get this COVID-19 under control and behind us. So FAMU football and our complement of full athletics returns this fall. In fact, we participated in a very spirited meeting last night with the FAMU National Alumni Association and the Jackson State University Alumni Association on the upcoming Orange Blossom Classic in Miami Gardens. Well, our Vice President and Director of Athletics, Courtney Gaucher, is anxious as any of us to get back to action, and he's here to provide an update.
Thanks, Keith. And as many of you guys know, the 2021 football schedule has been released and much anticipated excitement. For us, we do have about just over 300 of our student athletes back on campus this semester. We are all actively engaged in testing and the protocols associated with us to practice and compete. Our men's basketball team were really the first example of that, and we were able to get through the first half of our non-conference with very minimal disruption, to that program. And so I know a lot of our Rattlers around the country got a chance to see them on TV, and we will continue to do so. Next week, when men's basketball picks back up for return to play for all of our home games, we will be streaming those. And so we'll continue to push that information out on the weeks of those games. But as it pertains to football, we had a very spirited conversation last night with our peers at Jackson State. And we kind of gave them a cliff notes or an introduction to kind of how we do things here in Florida. And I think we might have even scared one of them away. But we're not going to do that today. We're not going to trash talk. But season tickets do go on sale January 31st. Make sure you get your tickets. You want to be in Bragg Memorial Stadium this year. We're really excited about the renovations that will be in the stadium. And that project is slated to schedule to start here shortly in the next couple of weeks. But we're really excited about it. Orange Blossom Classic, we get to kick off our inaugural year in the SWAC. And so again, you don't want to be left out of that equation. So certainly get your tickets. You can continue to support our program through the Rattler Athletic Fund to close the gap. As Dr. Friday Stroud mentioned, this year has been a challenge with the loss of revenue, but we would not be able to get through it without your contributions, your donations, and your support of our program. They're certainly making a difference in our program. Our student athletes and all of our staff is so greatly appreciative of the support that we have here in our programs. And so one last thing, if you renewed your Investing in Champions package last year, you're all set. So you will get notifications that you have a credit for your Investing in Champions package that was renewed on last year. If you didn't, you better hurry up because we've only got 25,000 seats in Bragg Memorial Stadium. And so I think we have a plan to fill it up every home game this year. So thank you. And we appreciate the continued support of FAMU Athletics and our student athletes.
All right, thank you, VP and AD Gaucher. Now we'll take some of your questions that you shared with us during the town hall meeting. Remember, the recording of this event will be posted and archived at famu.edu/virtual town hall for your review on demand. And we've got several questions that are related to Ms. Calhoun and Ms. Tatum. One is, do vaccinated faculty and students still need testing on a regular basis?
This is Tanya. I'll respond to that. For the time being, yes, because we are just now rolling out the vaccine. While it has a fairly high rate of efficacy, it's not 100%. In addition to that, you need to have 2 full doses plus another period of time to wait until it becomes effective. So just because you have the vaccine doesn't necessarily mean you're fully protected and that you won't get the virus. So we will still, at least at this point in time, until we get larger uptake of individuals that take the vaccine on campus, we'll still require the testing.
All right, Ms. Tatum, while you're here, here's another one. Do you know which vaccine will be offered at the FAMU site? Is it the Pfizer or the Moderna?
It's very likely we will have both at one time or another. We will be accepting whatever vaccine they have available for us at the state. And it just depends on what their supply is. At times they'll have the Pfizer and at other times they'll have the Moderna. So you can expect that we will be offering either one of those two during the time period that we're vaccinating.
Okay. What if a student receives an indeterminate test result? Are they able to, I guess, return to regular activities the next day?
If you receive an indeterminate test result, you really should go back and retest. It could have been something wrong with that particular test kit, but we always ask that you retest if you have an indeterminate test result. So I would go back right after you get that result or immediately the next day and be retested.
Okay.
So Ms. Tatum, if I might, actually
Yes.
at the curative site on our campus, if you get an indeterminate result, they will send you a message to that effect and reschedule you.
Great.
At our site. I'm not sure about other sites.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robinson and Ms. Tatum. This one may be for Provost Eddington. What are the consequences for faculty and staff, I guess students as well, who do not comply with the testing protocols and guidelines promulgated by the university?
Yeah, thank you. We have an expectation as outlined in the communications that we sent out that we do want those stakeholders to be tested. I won't describe specific consequences for each stakeholder group, but we do expect the individuals in those categories to adhere to the expectations that we've laid out. Certainly with respect to employees, the managers will address those issues. And then we also have with respect to students, specific expectations that will be handled through student affairs as necessary.
Okay, don't go anywhere, Dr. Eddington. With closed environments, are we expecting FAMUans to stay in Tallahassee until April?
And I'm trying to make sure I understand what the question is asking. I think if we think about the stakeholders working on campus and taking classes on campus, right? We do advise that you limit your travel outside of the local area, right? And just continue to practice safe habits. And so we encourage you just to stay sheltered as much as you can.
And might I add to that, Keith, that for official travel, there's a process for getting that approved that comes all the way to my desk. Now that's official university-sponsored travel, but I would advise everyone on this Zoom meeting to be very careful about where they go, not only out of town, but where you go while you're in town, because a lot of the transmission that universities are seeing is actually local, at bars and clubs and parties, even at house parties. So travel is something you need to be very wary about, and be very, very cautious as you undertake those kinds of things. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson and Dr. Eddington. Here's a question. Will students receive some CARES funding this semester?
Yeah, actually, I'll refer that to Dr. Hudson because his area manages the aid provided to the students.
I got a couple of points I would like to make there. So we are looking at ways to make sure that we take care of our students, and that's with the existing CARES Act monies that we have. We have pretty much provided all of the required monies to students that we receive, but we also have a significant amount of monies that we have applied to support students beyond that. And we got word today that with regards to the new CARES monies, the new stimulus funding monies, it's not CARES, but that we will be receiving, that there's an expectation that at least the same amount of money that went to students in the previous round goes to students out of this fund. That's what we just got word of today. And so that in the previous round, that was somewhere on the order of $6.5 million. So if that's what's required, we would more than happily do that to support our students, but we're also looking at other mechanisms to support our students as well, because I am concerned that many of them, their parents and the like are having difficulties as unemployment is raging around the nation and the communities from which they come. So we're looking at every means possible to pass along what we can to support our students while we maintain these additional expenses that are required to operate the university in this new environment.
And Keith, to add to that, what Dr. Robinson said, our goal is to always provide financial assistance to our students with CARES funding. And Dr. Robinson and the provost and Dr. Robertson has so generously allocated funding for financial assistance. But I must remind students and parents that there is a financial assistance application on the Division of Student Affairs website that must be completed. And we have to review each student's individual financial aid file to make sure they're eligible based upon the guidelines of the U.S. Department of Education.
So just sort of a tip to the students, if you're having difficulties, please let Dr. Hudson know through that process. And if we can help, we will.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Robinson, Dr. Hudson, and Dr. Eddington. This one's for you, Dr. Hudson. You mentioned the portal opening on January 25th for housing, but I received an email saying that it opens on January 19th, which is the correct date.
January 25th is the correct date. The reason for January 25th, students' financial aid through student accounts will have dispersed. So students' files should be clear by that time. So everyone will have an equal opportunity to apply for housing.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hudson. We'll circle back to Dr. Eddington. Will the instructors be responsible for confirming whether or not students are tested before they enter the classroom?
No, that is being managed through Student Health Services under the guidance of Ms. Tatum. Faculty should not be asking students about their testing status, especially not as a condition for attending class. Right? It's more appropriate to be handled by the health professionals.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Eddington. Dr. Hudson, why is FAMU still charging students out-of-state fees?
I think I'll turn that one over to Dr. Eddington.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the in-state and out-of-state status has to do with the residency of the student. So if the student is a resident of the state of Florida, the state subsidizes their education by charging them a relatively low tuition rate. That's called in-state tuition. If a student is an out-of-state resident, that means that typically they have not contributed to the tax base and the economy, excuse me, through their families particularly. And so the state does not subsidize, right, their education. And so that's the determining factor on whether a student will pay in-state versus out-of-state tuition. It has to do with their residency status.
Okay.
Might I add to that, just for clarification, the university does not make that law or regulation as a state requirement. We do have limited numbers of, out-of-state waivers that go, very, very quickly, but we cannot make a sweeping order to change that at our level.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robinson and Dr. Eddington. Dr. Robinson, maybe this one's for you. If there is going to be CARES money that will be distributed to help students, will they be required to carry 15 credit hours? Maybe a Dr. Eddington question.
It's actually a Dr. Hudson question.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay.
They must be full-time students. We are asking students to at least have a minimum of 12 hours to move towards graduation in 4 years. So we would strongly request that they have 15 credit hours, but the minimum will be 12.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. This one is for Vice President and Athletic Director Gaucher. Is there a date when homecoming tickets will go on sale, and will there be limited tickets sold?
Really good question. And so tickets will go on sale the 31st of January this month. I think it's a little premature for us to really define kind of what our limitations will or won't be just yet. We are hopeful that we're in a different place by the time homecoming rolls around. So I would suggest get your tickets so you're in that number. You're not left out in the cold. But obviously, given whatever protocols need to be adhered to, we will certainly do so. So if there's a method for us to have social distancing and that's required at that time, we will certainly do so and have a plan for that. But if not, and we hope that there's not, then again, we will certainly look forward to homecoming against those folks down there at Grambling.
All right, thank you, AD Gaucher. Well, we've had a lot of great questions to come in. Thank you very much for submitting those. And let me remind you that you can still submit your questions. If we didn't get to yours this afternoon, at townhall@famu.edu. We will close out this afternoon with closing remarks from President Robinson.
Thank you again, Keith, for emceeing this event. And I want to our participants, those 500 or so plus individuals, at least, on Zoom. I know there are a lot of others out there on Facebook. We really hope that this town hall has provided you with some valuable information that you need to navigate the spring semester. I want to reemphasize that your buy-in and support of testing and the COVID-19 safety measures, those are critical to our continued success during these unprecedented times. We must continue to protect the fam. Keith and his team came up with this, follow social distancing guidelines, always wash and sanitize your hands, and mask up. Remember, practicing these protocols not only protect you, but helps protect us all. We must protect the family. So I want to thank all of our panelists again for sharing their respective expertise this afternoon and assure you once again that our highest concern is the health and well-being of the entire FAMU community. I'm extremely proud of how we have worked together during this pandemic, and I ask you to continue to remain vigilant and stay safe. I am certain that we'll be able to get through this together.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson, and thank all of our panelists for their respective expertise this afternoon. Your respective leadership, even through this pandemic, has set the standard for all of the great things happening at FAMU every day. One last reminder that this town hall meeting recording will be posted and archived at famu.edu/virtual-town-hall for your review on demand. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.